We are back now on the Chip Shot Football Podcast to get into a very weird interaction, I should say, with Jerry Jones yesterday on the local flagship radio station for the Dallas Cowboys, right? Usually every week, Jerry Jones makes his weekly appearance on the team's radio station, and they go through the usual questions, probably reflecting on the game, the good and the bad of everything, right? As you would if you appear on these weekly shows each and every week, right? But this time it got really awkward and it got really uncomfortable really fast, I thought, with not only the question, well, I shouldn't say the question, but just the response that Jerry Jones gave because the hosts, I should say, of the 105.3 FM show, Shane Sheriff, RJ Choppy, and Bobby Belt. Apologies if I messed up any of those names, but those guys were the hosts of the show, as they typically are, and they were asking Jerry Jones their usual questions. And after a blowout loss, like 47-9, right? It's you're probably not going to get the best mood out of Jerry Jones, right? But still, they asked him about the criticisms he's gotten for the inactivity that we saw in the offseason, right? And whether or not Jerry Jones felt that those criticisms that were made on this Cowboys team, on him himself, about not doing enough in the offseason, not reinforcing this team enough, were they correct? Were they accurate criticisms? Now seeing how the team is 3-3, all their losses have come at home, and all those home losses have been pretty embarrassing. Did he feel that those criticisms were accurate, right? And clearly Jerry Jones was annoyed by it, as most people would be, losing a game like that, and not to mention it was his birthday and everything like that. And it feels like everyone's always criticizing the Cowboys, right? So it doesn't really rectify what he says, right? Because what he said next, and I'll show you guys here, it got pretty tense, and uncomfortable, like I said, with the reactions from the host, right? So Jerry Jones responded with, "This is not your job. Your job isn't to let me go over all the reasons that I did something, and I'm sorry that I did it. That's not your job. I'll get somebody else to ask these questions. I'm not kidding. You're not going to figure out what the team is doing right or wrong. If you are, or any 5 or 10 like you need to come to this meeting I'm going to today with 32 teams here. You're geniuses." And he said a few more things that I didn't want to just bombard you guys with the entire statement, but this was the main thing that he said. And obviously the main thing that made it pretty serious was the fact that he said, "I'll get somebody else to ask these questions," right? I'm not kidding. Pretty much threatening to fire these guys for asking what I thought was a pretty fair question. And right off of the bat, I'm sure most people have seen someone lose their cool like this. Like, when someone of higher power loses their cool like this, and it's very uncharacteristic, even for a guy like Jerry Jones, where we never really see him talk like this, which made it kind of weird and just unprecedented, right? Whenever a guy like a coach, an owner, a general manager, a president, or anybody of higher power loses their cool like this, it never really looks good. It's never really a good reaction that is very validated with trying to respond this way. It never really looks good, if ever. So that's the first thing. And with him being annoyed, I get it. Receiving questions like this, you don't necessarily want to answer them, and usually we get the boring answers, but we don't really get these outlandish answers like we had with Jerry Jones. And quite honestly, I felt that it was pretty unprofessional, pretty weak, and obviously very defensive, right, of Jerry Jones to respond like this to radio hosts that are doing their job, right? He says it's not their job to ask these questions. Then I would like to know what he thinks their job description is, right? If the radio hosts aren't gonna ask him about the latest game, albeit a blowout, they got blown out, or they blew out another team, then what exactly are they supposed to ask, right? If we're not supposed to praise this team when they win and obviously criticize them when they lose, then what are they there for, right? That's one thing also. And also, just by responding this way, I think it says everything that the host kind of wanted to get out of this question, but obviously in a much more rash way, the way Jerry Jones put it, right? It's basically, to me, it's just screaming of the fact that Jerry Jones knows that he messed up. He knows that this team isn't very good, but almost like saying to this radio host, like how dare you question or try to criticize me with asking about the inactivity of the offseason? Like, who are you to ask me this, right? And again, I get it. It's a very annoying question, I guess you could say, because it's annoying from the fact that it's very true. You could think of it that way. And it is very true, right? This team has not been built up very well. This team has not rectified all the losses that they had in the offseason. Guys on defense, Dan Quinn obviously moving on, and not really rectifying the things on offense as well. Last year, the running game was okay, and then they lose their starting running back, so it got worse. Then on the defensive side of the ball, you lose guys like Dorrance Armstrong, or Deron Bland's not playing yet. The running game isn't very great overall. And Eric Fortes, welcome to the show. Which side of the trade do you like? I'm assuming you mean Amari Cooper and the Bills. That trade, right? So which side of it do I like? I love the Bills side of it. It makes them, get to that next level, I feel like, with a guy like Amari Cooper and how his relationship is with Josh Allen, DK Metcalf, Algier, or Josh Jacobs. Oh, okay. DK Metcalf, Algier, or Josh Jacobs and JSN. I think I would prefer. That's tough. I think I would prefer DK Metcalf and Algier. I think I would prefer them. DK and the Seahawks pass a lot, and I think he more often than not plays very good. So I like that side of it. But to stick with this Jerry Jones point, right? It's it doesn't make him look great because of the fact that he says this isn't their job, and the fact that he threatens their job is not a great look on him overall. As a owner, as a person of higher up power, right? You have nothing really to lose. So to make a guy that's just trying to do his job feel like that with sarcastic comments and, threatening his job and threatening other people to come out and, ask different questions than what he's asking. Jerry Jones is better than that, or at least I like to think he's better than that. So that was pretty uncharacteristic-like. And I feel like he knows that this team isn't very good. Obviously, you can't look at this team on the field and think, we're right there. We're going to get it, right? Next week is going to be a little bit different. It's been 6 weeks, and I feel like he knows this team isn't bad, but it's just the idea of not accepting it, or just not accepting the fact that he is wrong, or that he built this team up very badly throughout the offseason by taking some bad decisions. I think really that's what the problem is with Jerry and what it says about the Cowboys, right? If he came out and said that, you know what, I built this team up wrong, I thought this and that, we should have done this, that, and the other, I think a lot of people would be like, you know what, good for Jerry Jones for admitting that, right? This could be a step in the right direction in trying to change something. Nobody would chastise him or criticize him for saying he's wrong. I feel like people would accept the fact that he's, self-criticizing himself and saying that, he didn't do his job as a general manager. And what's funny and kind of ironic about this is that if he wasn't the general manager and he was just the owner, I feel like he would have fired the general manager already for the kind of job that they've done building up this team. But obviously, he's the general manager and the owner. So I think it comes back to the fact that Jerry also wants things to. He can't have it both ways, right? Obviously, when they're playing great, and this Cowboys team, like, it has performed very well in the regular season the last couple of years. When they're great, when they're looking great on the field, Dak's an MVP candidate, their defense is high flying and getting turnovers and whatnot. He has no problem receiving all the praise and everything like that. He embraces all of that and all that good that comes with it, obviously, right? But when it goes bad and you don't build this team up very well, you can't just try and ignore all the criticism and feel like it's a personal attack, or feel offended when people are criticizing your job, which was to build a competitive team as the general manager and try to make the most accurate, appropriate decisions to make this team better, obviously going forward in the playoffs. But when the praise is there, people will probably give it to Jerry Jones. But when the criticism comes, he doesn't want to accept that his way of doing things or his decisions were wrong. And you just can't have it both ways, obviously, right? Um, you know, with that, with that sentiment and getting things like that, I didn't like the fact that he got personal, obviously, again. And he mentioned somewhere in this statement that he said, "You're not going to figure out what the team is doing right or wrong. If you are, or any 5 or 10 like you need to come to this meeting I'm going to today with 32 other teams here. You're geniuses." And to that point, right, I don't think it takes geniuses to realize what's wrong with this Dallas Cowboys team, right? I think a lot of people, like I've mentioned on here, or just other people in media have mentioned that it hasn't looked good for this reason, this other reason, right? They can't run the ball, they can't stop the run, they have no other weapons other than CeeDee Lamb, and it just appears that they're soft. Also, so it doesn't take too many brilliant football minds to really realize that. So for him to say that doesn't really resonate too much either. So that's another thing. And lastly, we talked about Nick Sirianni yesterday and how uncomfortable it was when you have a guy like that, receiving criticism from his own fans who are within their right to criticize Nick Sirianni or say what they want at the games, right? Albeit, respectful, right? We're not going to say anything too outlandish, but, like you suck chance or you shouldn't have this job chance or something like that. It's not great to hear, but it's not like too out of bounds, right? And for Nick Sirianni to go out there and kind of chirp back to him, to his own fans after a win, we talked about that and how like come on, like Nick Sirianni, the leader, the representative of the Eagles team, for him to show and react like that to his own fans, it shows a lot about the organization and why some of these little distractions and behind the scenes issues are popping up with him, with Jalen Hurts. Also, I think it's a little bit comparable to this situation with Jerry and how any sort of criticism he gets from this radio host, it says a lot about how things and how maybe he operates things behind the scenes, right? The self-criticism maybe isn't there. He's not so in tune with the fact that he's unable to see his shortcomings and realize that, hey, you know what? I'll come out and admit it. I didn't build up this team right. Let's try maybe to get somebody else in here to help me out. He likes things to have it be done his own way, and a lot of times I feel like being so driven to want to prove and show everyone that you're right, that you're not going to budge from your methods, leads to your team looking like this. And when you put out the same exact product and feel confident like he did all offseason, right, and leading up into this season, you got to be ready to receive the criticism when it's not there, right? For as confident and proud that you were of this team heading into this year, don't like whimper about it now. Don't start to kick and scratch and fight everybody that has criticism about it right now, justifiably so. And lastly, I'll mention this also, right, with the fact that, at the beginning of the offseason, he said that they're going all in, and the fact that they put out the exact same product, if not worse, it's not everybody else's fault that they're criticizing you now for Jerry Jones not being able to live up to his own statement, that he made pretty confidently, right? He said that they're going all in this year. He said that this year was going to be the year for, some sort of breakthrough in the playoffs, right? And now that it's looking like you're not even going to get back to the playoffs, right? Don't be surprised and don't react this way basically when you are failing to deliver on a statement that you made yourself, right? And you didn't really have to make that statement at all, but the fact that he made it and now he's not delivering on it, and he doesn't like the fact that people are criticizing him on it or calling him out, that's the problem, I think, more so than just football with Jerry Jones. And you look at the Bills, you look at even the Jets, right? People might be clowning them a little bit, more so the Jets than the Bills, but you want to talk about going all in, look at those two teams, right? It might not work in the end, but at least they're doing something about it, right? They're not throwing out there the same old team. And again, Jerry Jones shouldn't get upset when he made those claims about going all in, and now when it's not working, to feel offended or feel like attacked for the criticism he's receiving from radio hosts on how it hasn't really worked out the way that he thought. It's just a failed project that he called out at the beginning of the offseason, right, by saying that they're going all in, and for it not to work now, it's justifiable now that these criticisms are coming in. So yeah, the fact that he reacted like that, I wasn't gonna talk about it, but then I looked at it, and it's like to react like that and threaten the guy's job seems going too far, obviously. So I had to bring it up now and address it also as well because it was pretty outlandish for even Jerry Jones to say something like that. So we'll leave that topic there, and we'll see if anything else comes of it. But moving on now to some more quarterback talk, we're going to talk about Russell Wilson and him potentially getting his first start this upcoming weekend against the New York Jets as well, with him being fully healthy. Is he going to get the job over Justin Fields now? We're going to discuss it. We're going to talk about what Mike Tomlin said this week, and is this the right decision or not? That'll be coming up right after this break. Don't go anywhere.